Everyone. Hello. My name is Joel Pinney, and I'll be presenting the short paper Uncertainty and Risk, investigating line graph aesthetics for enhanced cybersecurity awareness. This research is part of my PhD. The PhD is funded by CAS, which I need to acknowledge, which stands for the Knowledge Economy Skills Scholarship. There is two authors of this paper. Of course, as I've introduced myself as Joel Pinney, I'm a lecturer in computer science. But this research is part of my PhD research. And the second author is Dr. Fiona Carroll, who is also my director of study, who is a reader in human-computer interaction. And of course, we are both working in the School of Technologies here at Cardiff Met. To give you a brief overview of what I'm going to cover in this presentation. To start, I'm going to talk about cybersecurity awareness and why that's relevant for this research. And I'm going to also talk about why we selected the line graph for this research. I'm going to talk about what is meant by aesthetics and why we are using aesthetics for this research. Then going into the study, talking about the participants, the questionnaire, and our key results. And then to conclude, I will talk about what this means for cybersecurity awareness and how we can have enhanced cybersecurity awareness before talking about the future work and any questions that you may have. Now, this is the abstract which is taken from the short paper. To give you a short overview of the submission, however, as we know, cybersecurity and COVID-19 have seen many challenges over the previous couple of years. We can see that the biggest challenges come in the form of everything moving online. Within a matter of days, essentially, businesses were stripped from their premise and had to go online in order to survive. With this came more data online, and we can see an increase in possible exposure to new and existing types of cyber attacks. So the one question that we need to ask is, with the potential of this lay audience, so people who pretty much don't understand this transition onto online, how do we visualize and present cybersecurity in a way which is intuitive, but yet gives the lay audience the information that they need? So as we know, dashboards have been a strong method of visualization in cybersecurity worlds, and they have been offered by companies such as Logpoint and Alliance. So this research is focusing on the line graph within these dashboards, and in particular, how we can enhance a basic line to encode further information to create this heightened sense of cybersecurity and risk. But why do we need this, and why is an enhanced awareness necessary? Well, taking two extracts from the paper, we can start to piece together what is required in order to encourage this enhanced awareness. Now, for instance, researchers have acknowledged that dashboards offer a great tool for us to help understanding cybersecurity data, but sometimes they are difficult for us to understand. So for us to correctly interpret the information, we need to have methods that are inclusive and allow people to understand them easily. But secondly, in terms of cybersecurity awareness, we know that people need a deeper, insightful understanding of cybersecurity in order to make better decisions. So in order to make effective decisions, we need to understand their awareness and pretty much everything which is going on within that sector. So the author of this paper, so myself, Fiona, asked the question, how can we enhance a basic line which is in a visualization to afford this increased cybersecurity awareness? And we feel that you need to do that through intuition. So before we talk about intuition, why did we pick the line graph? So there's many reasons why we picked the line graph, and of course line graphs are used in many applications, but we felt that they were used within cybersecurity quite often. So we've already talked about dashboards as a method of visualization, but there's other graphs that utilize the line just as effectively, such as force-directed graphs, node-link diagrams, geospatial graphs, or simple line graphs as we're all used to. All of them contain a line, but all of them tell the user something about either the connections in the data, the direction of movement, or even just the plot of simple data. So that's why we selected a line graph, but why did we select aesthetics, and what does aesthetics actually mean? Now, when we hear the word aesthetics, we probably all associate it straight away with the field of art and design, which is the most common thing that everyone does. But there's more and more people now who are looking at visualization and aesthetics and how we can depict and understand data that we have in a more design-focused way. So whilst aesthetics, yes, are associated with art and design, they've also taken a key role in how we present our data. Now, research from Hawthorne and Van der Moor has recently found how design plays a very important role in making data more accessible and allowing us to have a better understanding of data. So for this research, we're not just looking at how we can increase and make better visualizations, but how we can encode these line graphs to afford more of a sense of risk and uncertainties. So in simple terms, aesthetics are combinations of design elements with design principles. So we can see elements of design such as line, shape, form, color, texture, space, and value. And when they appeared with a principle of design, so passive, contrast, emphasis, balance, proportion, harmony, and rhythm, they create what we would know as aesthetic in art. So these are the combinations that we have been using. So as part of this research, we conducted a questionnaire, and it was quite simply to understand how different influences of aesthetics in the line can create a sense of uncertainty and risk. So the research was conducted as part of a wider portfolio of my PhD, and this was pilot study 2 of number 4. So the short paper focused specifically on researching the design elements color paired with the design principle of emphasis. So added emphasis to simple colors to try and afford more feelings of risk. So the study was conducted in Cardiff Metropolitan University between the 11th of August 2021 until the 14th of August 2021. So in that 3-day period, we collected 1,142 completed responses. As you can see, of those, there was 532 male, 604 female, 3 non-binary, and 3 prefer not to say. They all resided in the UK, and they were all over the age of 18. Now, in order to get the 1,142, we utilized the external third-party company Dynata, who distributed the questionnaire across their network, and participants were rewarded with a small incentive for completing the questionnaire. Now, the only limitation that we put on Dynata was that we didn't want anyone under the age of 18. So the questionnaire was designed to take participants through a step-by-step process in which their answers would influence certain questions. Now, there was about 3,000 questions within there, but participants were only subject to about 60. So this is the step-by-step process that participants were subjected to when they went through the questionnaire. So the first one, they would select which color they felt was most uncertain by ranking them in order from 1 to 6. After that, then, whichever one they selected, so in this instance, if they selected A as the most uncertain, it would then be shown a question with that color enhanced with emphasis. So we had 5 scales of emphasis, 5, 8, 11, and 18. Now, once they selected that, the next question was to use that emphasis, but applying it to all colors. Now, we did this in order to understand whether or not it's the emphasis that's called the uncertainty or the color. So in this instance, then, they would be shown all of the colors, but this time with the level of emphasis that they had selected. So in this instance, if they selected blue and then they selected the 18-point emphasis, they are now shown all 6 colors with the 18-point emphasis. And then once again, we asked them which one's the most uncertain. Now this time, whichever one they selected, they'll be directed to a question, either asking them why they selected that line. So for instance, if they remained with blue all the way through, they'd be asked why was blue the most uncertain color. But if they changed, they'd be asked what made you change your decision from line A to line B. So some of the results that we found. Well, surprisingly, red was not rated as the most uncertain color. It was very close, but yellow was seen as the most uncertain. So the order went yellow, red, blue, green, orange, and lastly purple, which was quite uncertain considering the way red is represented in society as dangerous and uncertain and risky. But then when we added the emphasis that we see that all colors now had this heightened sense of uncertainty. So the 18-point emphasis was seen as the one which elicited the most uncertainty, with 57% of participants selecting it in stage 2 of the questions. Now, this was closely followed by 5-point with 24, and then 8 and 11-point emphasis had 9.5 each. But all the participants who selected yellow and red, over 60% of them said that adding 18-point emphasis to that color in a line graph elicited a more feeling of risk and uncertainty. But next, we asked participants, so this is the qualitative side of it, is why did you actually select that option? Now, behind me, we focus on the red and the yellow lines, which were enhanced with 18-point emphasis. And we asked participants, why did you select that colour, or why did you remain with that colour? And like I said, we expected red to really take the reins because of the stigma of being dangerous, of being risky. But when we actually start to look at the colours, we could see that red was always listed as danger, risk, and uncertainty, which, like I said, is what we expected due to the common perception of red being associated with risks. But then when we looked at those participants' responses who selected yellow with 18-point emphasis, it was less focused on its visual appearance of the line and more on the colour, and more on the visual appearance of the line. So we can see terminology such as indistinguishable, faintest, transparent, pale, weaker. So it's less about the colour itself and more about how we represented the line using aesthetics to show risk. So what did we conclude from this? Well, firstly, we can see that aesthetics can indeed afford a role in presenting a heightened feeling of uncertainty and risk, but it also makes us start to question the scale that we're so accustomed to using. So obviously, we all know this sort of scale where red is high, and we have an orange for medium, yellow for the lower medium, and then green for the lower risk. Yet, from our research, the yellow colour, once it was manipulated in such a way, signified a higher level of risk and danger. So, as I say, this was only a short paper as part of a pilot study to determine methods to portray uncertainty and risk in line graphs. But moving forward, we can see there is potentially focusing more on specific cybersecurity case studies, such as using aesthetics to visualize more cybersecurity visual warnings that we of course see pop up on our screens. Furthermore, we can see that there's a need for more detailed accounts as to why participants felt certain colours and aesthetics were more uncertain. And finally, we can see that there's a lot more elements and principles that can be tested to see if there are other methods of visualizing risk and uncertainty to increase this heightened cybersecurity awareness. And there was a sort of a bigger picture behind this. So like I said, this was only a small section of my PhD work. So, this study only plays a very small role in the overall picture. And the final goal, I suppose we would say, is to develop this framework in which visualization designers can go on and upload their data and then add a degree of uncertainty to which these results were found from. So we can see that they can use a scale to add a higher degree of uncertainty to their data, depending on the level that they're trying to portray. So we're trying to increase this intuitive feeling of uncertainty rather than following the common methods of visualizing uncertainty, but making it more accessible and more intuitive. So I welcome any questions that you may have. I'm sorry if I went through a lot.
Thanks very much, Joel.